Good evening, everyone. My name's Elaine Ellis and I work for Skills Development Scotland. Delighted to be speaking to you all this evening. I've gone to the next slide, please. So there's an overview of a variety of speakers, and it's myself that's going to kick off today. Certainly my presentation is very much just an overview. I'll be mentioning various funding streams. The detail of that will get picked up by Catherine, by Greg, by Barry and by Julia at different points depending on the funding. So my bit is very much an overview. Just go to the next slide. Excellent. So first bit is very much just about construction and COVID. So onto the first slide, which is the next one along. It's just a very brief overview of the impact that COVID has had on construction and on the economy. Almost stating the obvious, but it's not an exaggeration to say that COVID, as well as being a major health crisis, has very much had a major economic impact, which has had an impact across with record falls in output across all sectors. And so far, unfortunately, it has had a significant increase in redundancies to date. Just about every sector is impacted, a handful of sectors for the better in terms of output, but for the majority of sectors, that has been a sort of negative impact. And certainly for construction, despite the fact that construction has been maybe one of the least impacted and is seen as a sector where is on the right side of impact, it has nevertheless had negative impacts, and it's certainly not all been plain sailing. At the original lockdown way back last spring, the construction sector in its entirety was almost completely shut, bar essential work. A lot of work has been done at that very early stages with the sector, with the trade associations, with industry leadership group, with government, to look at how to keep the sector opening should we have to go back into another lockdown, which is exactly what happened. And we were in a very fortunate position that site operation procedures have been created that allowed the sector to stay open, which means it's not been as badly hit as it could have been. But despite that, it's still been negatively impacted. And certainly from some figures that we had looking back early January, about 12% of the workforce is furloughed. So that's still a significant number of people. Certainly through PACE, which is a redundancy service, they engaged with 675 individuals from a construction background through last year. And for modern apprenticeship redundancies within the sector, we had 252. Now, we're very lucky. Many of them have already been replaced, and CITB and sort of other managing agencies done an excellent job in supporting them. But nevertheless, the apprentices were made redundant and did have to go through the sort of process of being replaced. And our figure, we do labour market information, and suggested employment shrunk by about 0.2% in the sector. So it is a sort of downward trend. However, that is less than average. And I think if I remember rightly, the average of all sectors is about 0.8%. But this one thing about construction and COVID is that it's very much impacted on young people way more than any other demographic, and it's not that it's only young people that are impacted, it goes across all groups, but certainly young people, especially those just finishing school or just finishing college, have been severely impacted by it, and it has made it sort of a very difficult time. So there is going to be lots of responses in terms of skill system, in terms of the Scottish Government and the economy, to try and address that and to do what they can to support the young people and others impacted. Next slide. So apprenticeships and construction, again, before we get into funding, apprenticeships for me and construction just go hand in hand. The apprenticeships are very much at the heart of the construction sector. They're the way to train for so many jobs. It's the sole route for many of the trades and many other occupations. CITB, who are on this call, offer employer funding that's unique to the sector. The sector is very lucky to have CITB funding to set and support apprenticeship programme. We all work in partnership with managing agents and other training providers. Apprentices are employed, and I think that for me is always a very critical bit, that we are very much relying on companies and employers being able to offer spaces. And on all that side, part of what we do is about gathering data on the impact of COVID, on how it is out on the ground, to feed back into the government, to feed into other agencies. We gather that data and put it into various sort of labour market information links. One of the latest insights is connected on the slide there, but certainly from my point of view, it's about having a two-way conversation and understanding the impacts in real life. But we need very many more people, and I won't go too much into the economic side, but even up to 2023, our estimation is that we needed 17,900 people to replace those that are leaving, and another 7,300 over and above for what we see as expansion demand, and that will be driven through many areas. Next slide again. So part of what we do is very much involved around apprenticeships, as I mentioned in the first instance. And one thing that we can do, which I know isn't the funding side, but is the sort of very important side, is that we are there to support with recruitment if needed. We have on our website a range of 4 different employer guides that can support from recruitment, how to identify and recruit young people, how to write a job advert, again, how you would sort of link in with training providers once they're in place. We also have the opportunity to advertise the job on Apprenticeship.Scot, and I've got a link there to the website. So this is a free to use platform that allows you to directly link in with young people, and it's certainly a well-used website. And I think last week it was Scottish Apprenticeship Week, and Scottish Apprenticeship Week drove an extra 58,000 hits to Apprenticeship.Scot. So got excellent views last week, but it gets very good data and very good traffic at all times. Next slide. So the post-COVID-19 apprenticeship plan, when COVID hit, we really did have to look at, just like everybody else, how we were delivering what we do. And as you know, working with Scottish Government in terms of funding, we had to work with to try and put in place support and mechanisms that can support apprentices and support employers. I am not going to go into too much detail, many of them, as I said, because other people will be coming in behind me to do that. But certainly in terms of protecting apprenticeships, we did look at how do we adapt apprenticeships to make sure that they could work in terms of physical distancing, how we could deal with working with the SQA, who do a lot of the guidelines for the actual delivery itself, working with College Network. But from our side, it's a lot of this sort of administration burden, I guess, at the back of it. And again, it was how to make that work. We have put in place Adopt an Apprenticeship, which will be spoke about a bit more later, but the money around that was increased from 2,000 to 5,000. And we also looked at transition plans and how to support the apprentices that were made unemployed. We worked with the sector in terms of creating new opportunities. We created a pathway apprentice, and that was an opportunity for young people who would otherwise have went into apprentice, to give them a place to go, and certainly pathway apprenticeships have went into that space. And we've got work ongoing in the background for that. And in terms of trying, stimulating demand for apprenticeships and making sure that that stayed in place, one of the things that we've brought in is an apprentice employer grant. Now this runs out fairly shortly, so we're sort of, applications we need to be in by the end of the month. But that grant is there for up to £5,000 for either bringing in new apprentice or upskilling existing staff. There's terms and conditions there, so it's definitely worth looking at them. But the money is there and the opportunity is there, albeit the clock is ticking on it. Certainly when that comes to an end, we will expect the sort of employer recruitment incentives that are done area by area to jump into space. On a bigger sort of picture, part of what we do is about looking at frameworks and standards, and we're certainly very keen that as we move forward that apprenticeships and modern apprenticeships frameworks and standards will be very much future-proofed, and that they will become a qualification where more and more, as well as just building in technical skills, that we think about what we're calling the meta skills that sit at the back of it. So we'll be looking at how to bring in the skills such as creativity, innovation, digital skills, and it is about creating a workforce that will be able to adapt and be ready for the sort of pace of change of the new world. Next slide. Part of what we do is around the career service. Most of you may or may not know, but career service sits within Skills Development Scotland. Some of you may already, again, directly engage through developing young workforce in terms of some industry skill engagement. We do have various careers websites there, and again, every so often we are always looking for active engagement in terms of support for school leavers, and we run events such as Meet the Experts, where young people get the chance to meet experts who are normally other young people that are already working in a sector, and certainly in construction we've had quite a few over the last couple of years, and jobs as varied as planning, civil engineering, Scottish Building Standards, if I remember rightly. Big part of what we do is around redundancy support, and certainly that's a very important bit at the moment. We do support for the Scottish Government's PACE partnership, and it is about linking sort of unemployed people with support and supporting employers who are having to make people redundant. And if there's more information needed on that, that can be accessed through our website. We have various sort of online innovative services, and certainly our skills force is a website that exists to support employers that has an array of information, so worth looking at that. And National Transition Training Fund is there, and again, that's about supporting people that are unemployed who need to retrain and upskill. So that's some of the support that we have in place, and a lot more detail will sort of follow after me. Next slide. And again, I'm not going to go into details of all the individual ones because I think they'll get covered elsewhere. There is an array of support that has been very much about supporting employers to get through this time. The job retention scheme is probably one of the most well known. It is about paying wages and support for when employees have had to be furloughed at this point in time. There'll be a lot more detail on Kickstart that exists to give young people an opportunity to come in for those that are universal credit and to get opportunity to get wages paid. It doesn't, there's been some quirks around it, but certainly it's worth looking into. And the only one I'll mention that I don't think will come up at a later stage is around skills for growth. So for any businesses out there who are who are sort of looking at their own work practices and would like some free consultancy and advice on brown skills, on how to manage your team, on how to deal with change, it's 2 days free consultancy from the same people that run Investors and People. So it's from an organisation called Remarkable, but certainly that can be linked through our website, and it's from businesses up to 250 members of staff. So I would certainly say it's worth engaging with them because it's always worth taking that advice and that expertise when it's available. And I think everything else will get covered elsewhere. Next slide. And I think that's it for me. So thank you guys. Hopefully you will get something out of this, and certainly a lot of the information that we have. I will send out an information slide and a handout afterwards that you can certainly look at and look through links if you need more information in any one area. Thank you very much.
Thank you. My name is Catherine Matheson, and I'm the Director for Enterprise and Business Development at Borders College. I basically manage the commercial programmes for the college, as well as our Modern Apprentices, Foundation Apprentices, and Community and Leisure short courses. Next slide, please. So I'm going to talk to you today about some of the funding opportunities that are available for employers at the moment. And the biggest one probably at present is the Flexible Workforce Development Fund. So FWDF was introduced about 4 years ago, really to provide businesses that were paying into the apprenticeship levy with some funding to support training and development within their own workforce. And the aim really is to improve outcomes for businesses. So it's about upskilling, reskilling, things that are going to increase productivity and support businesses just to improve and develop. And then last year, in response to COVID, the fund was expanded to include small to medium enterprises. And that really just means that you're a business operating in Scotland with up to 250 employees. And at the moment, the fund offers up to £15,000 a year for levy payers and up to £5,000 for small to medium enterprises. Next slide, please. So basically, the FWDF has a set of eligibility criteria that I have put on the next slide. I mean, what we would encourage all businesses to do really is to just come and discuss it with us. You know, and we will support anybody who's interested to identify what training they require, which employees might require it. And if you're a sole trader, that doesn't exclude you from, that's all right, Craig, just put me off. That doesn't exclude, if you're a sole trader, that does not exclude you from applying for the Flexible Workforce Development Fund. The most important thing is that you just make contact and have a conversation with us. And the training can be absolutely anything, really. It can be specialist training that is very specific to your business. It can be things that are quite general, like leadership and management or customer service. You know, it can be things like TIG welding, for example, that we've done recently, and just anything, you know. The important thing is to come and have a discussion with us. And in order to be eligible, you need to just be a Scottish company and be able to demonstrate that you've got a business bank account or you're VAT registered or something like that. The only caveat at the moment is that statutory qualifications are not included. So if you have any training requirements that perhaps require you to register, so something like Corgi gas registration or something like that, you wouldn't be allowed to access that through the FWDF at the moment. However, there's some discussion at the Scottish Government level at present about that, and it does seem likely that it might change over the next few weeks. So if you're at all unsure, just give us a shout. Next slide, please. So I've put some contact details on there, and basically it's a very simple process. You contact us, we have a conversation, we create an application form with you, agree what you need, and then agree when it's going to be delivered. And it's really that simple. It's not an onerous process at all. So, you know, I really would encourage anybody to just come and have that conversation with us, and we'll see what we can do. Next slide, please. So I've gone on here to talk about the Adopt an Apprentice scheme, which is open really to support apprentices who've been made redundant and enable them just to complete their apprenticeship. And that is up to £5,000 per apprentice if you're able to take somebody on. The only caveat is they have to have started with you after the 13th of October, and we need to have applications in at the moment by the 25th of March this year. There is a little bit of a time constraint with all funding at present. However, we are hopeful that funding will continue after the end of March, but you know, we're just waiting to have that guidance from Scottish Government. And Elaine mentioned earlier the the Apprentice Employer Grant, which is something else that is available. Now, I haven't specifically put a slide about that, again, because that fund ends on the 25th of March. So you need to have employed your apprentice, signed them up for their training with the college, done all the paperwork and got them onto the Skills Development Scotland system before then. So, you know, unless you're going to move really quickly over the next 10 days, it's probably not going to happen. But again, just come and have a discussion with us and we'll provide support. And then obviously if that scheme is extended, then we can be in touch with you and just let you know about that. Next slide, please. And then last of all is the Kickstart Scheme, which is a UK-wide scheme that I'm sure a lot of people will have heard about, which aims really to create job placements for young people. So you can apply now directly to that scheme. You don't need to go through a gateway organisation, although we do have a gateway organisation in the Borders who would be very happy to support you with that. And basically what you need to do then is to offer a placement to a young person for 6 months. It needs to be 25 hours a week, and the UK government will cover the cost of you employing that person. They'll pay their wages for you, and they'll also provide some funding towards training and towards things like personal protective equipment or specialist equipment that they might need. And that scheme's open right up until the end of this year. So, you know, it's quite a good opportunity, I think, to perhaps create a placement for a young person and kind of try them out and see how they get on. Give them the opportunity to learn a bit about the business with a view perhaps to going on to a modern apprenticeship at the end of the Kickstart placement. And I think that's me. I think the important thing for me to say is that we're always happy to talk to anybody about training and development or about the support that we can give them at the college. So, you know, do get in touch, and if you've got any questions, just give me a shout. Thank you.
Thanks, Catherine. Hi, hello everybody. My name's Greg Steele. I'm the Curriculum Manager for Sustainable Construction at Borders College. And my responsibilities include college courses for full-time pre-apprentice and apprenticeships in brickwork, carpentry and joinery, painting and decorating, plumbing, and foundation apprenticeship in civil engineering. My background is in teaching in carpentry and joinery, and my recent industry experience has been building low-energy homes. I have a passion for sustainable construction, and part of my role at the college is to develop training and upskilling opportunities in this area. The push for net zero carbon emissions by 2045 is a huge undertaking, especially for the construction industry, but it can be done, and we have the technology now to build zero carbon dwellings. So I'd like to show you a short video of the Eco Room at the Sustainable Construction Hub in our Hoyt campus. And this building is a showcase for the new construction practice that will help us to reach our 2045 targets. So the video highlights some of the technologies that go into our low carbon building, such as the sustainable insulation materials, air tightness, and high performance glazing. Now at the college, we're developing a range of awareness and short upskilling courses, which are now available, understanding insulation materials, heat loss in buildings, and external wall insulation systems by Weatherby. We also have a sustainable construction and renewable technology awareness courses. Airtightness and airtight construction is another course looking at airtightness detailing, installation and testing using the latest retrotech equipment. We also have mechanical ventilation and heat recovery systems to avoid ventilation heat loss and provide excellent indoor air quality. Other courses include thermal imaging to identify heat loss, air leakage and building problems such as dampness. And thermal imaging can be combined with drone technology to provide a wide range of building surveying. The technology is widely used in engineering, mechanical, and electrical building services. All of the sustainable construction courses mentioned are usually a one-day duration or short duration with a college certificate. For plumbers and heating engineers, we have a range of accredited training courses. The candidates must hold an SVQ3 in plumbing or equivalent, and these courses are BPEC accredited and usually 4 days in duration. This slide shows our heat pump systems NOS mapped course, which covers air source, ground source, and we're using our brand new facility at the Hoyt campus with the latest equipment from Vaillant. We also have BPEC award in the installation and maintenance of solar thermal hot water, and also training courses for unvented hot water systems and water bylaws. And we're also running a series of ACS gas qualification training and assessment. For electricians that hold an SVQ3 in electrical installation, we have a range of courses, including 18th edition wiring regulations, battery storage installation with our partners Sonnen, and also electric vehicle charging point installation courses. And if you have any questions about specific courses, please contact the college for more information. And I'll now hand you over to Barry Dawson from the CITB.
Hi Greg, thanks for the introduction there. It's great to be invited along tonight to present. I'm going to give a kind of whistle-stop tour, high-level overview of the grants and funding support that's available through the CITB to our employer network. So if you could just pop onto the next slide, please, Greg. And another one. I feel like I'm on countdown. So there's a number of different grants and funding streams available through the CITB. So the majority of businesses within the borders the majority of construction businesses, should I say, within the borders will probably be registered for CITB. So if you're in scope and you are registered for CITB, irrespective of whether you pay a levy or not, the full suite of grants and funding is available to you. So just to give a kind of brief overview of some of the grants and funding support that's available, we have the short duration course grants. So that works on a tiered system. So the best way to explain the short duration grants is your kind of generic training. So your asbestos awareness, you're working at height, your sort of half day up to kind of 5 day duration courses. There's a tiered system of £30, £70 or £120, depending on the length and duration and level of the course. The qualifications grants that I've mentioned there, they would kick in if an employee was to undertake a relevant VQ. So if it was an in-scope VQ and, for example, bricklaying or painting and decorating or any plant-related VQ categories, there's a significant amount of grant funding available there. You can achieve, you can claim up to £600 for a VQ achievement, and certain plant-related VQ achievement grants apply as well. The most significant sort of pot of funding within our grant stream would be the Apprenticeship Grant. There's been a significant uplift over the last year or so on the Apprenticeship Grant, and I'll break that down in a slide or two's time, just to show how those grants are structured and paid to employers that recruit apprentices through the CITB. We also have the Skills and Training Fund, which is an absolutely fantastic opportunity for small and medium companies, which predominantly the majority of the companies in the borders are part of that, are of that size, shall we say. So there really is a really good opportunity for a significant amount of funding if through a successful application to the Skills and Training Fund. So I'll have a look on the next slide. I'll give you a bit of an overview as to the two different pots of funding that are available there. So the Skills and Training Fund supports small and micro companies, so companies with 99 or fewer employees. There's up to £10,000 available on a tiered basis, which I will show on the next slide how that's broken down. Basically, you can apply for any grant eligible training. So if it sits within our grant scheme, you can apply for it through the Skills and Training Fund. You can also use the Skills and Training Fund for innovation and productivity as well. So if you're looking at some innovative training, some management and leadership training, that can be built into the Skills and Training Fund as well. Now, from its inception about 4 or 5 years ago, the Skills and Training Fund did only support small and micro employers, should I say, but we've now expanded the parameters of that to include the medium-sized fund. So I know within the borders there's not that many companies that would fall into this category, but it's a UK-wide fund, and with a scope of 100 to 249 employees on the payroll, there is up to £25,000 worth of funding available for grant eligible training, looking at supporting productivity and potentially leadership and management as well. So there's a significant amount of funding there. If we could pop on to the next slide, please, Greg. As I said there's a tiered structure of funding. So between 0 to 49, there's up to 5,000. I won't break it down. I won't go through each of the bandings there, but you can see that it ranges from 5,000 up to 49, up to £25,000 available, with companies up to 200 and between 200 and 249 employees. So as I say, again, a significant amount of funding available. Next slide, please, Greg. As I mentioned before, the most popular and significant grant I think that we offer currently through the CITB would be the Apprenticeship Grant. As I say, there has been a significant uplift over a year or so ago, and now over a 4-year apprenticeship, the total payable under the CITB grant scheme for that is £14,500 for a 3 or a 4 year. For a 2-year apprenticeship, yeah, that would attract funding of £8,500 there. You can see the attendance grant would be paid in quarterly increments, with achievement grant at various stages of the apprenticeship, payable on achievement. We've got a network of local advisors and apprenticeship officers. The local advisors are on hand across Scotland to help businesses with grants, funding, and any sort of general advice and guidance in relation to CITB. We have a network of apprenticeship officers that look after the apprentice contract, as well as the pastoral care element of apprentices. And to find contact details for any of your local advisory team, you could follow the website www.citb.co.uk and have a look at the Contact Us section, where you'll be able to find out the most relevant person to speak to. Alternatively, my details are on the next slide, Greg. Please feel free to drop me please feel free to drop me a line. My email is barry.dawson@citb.co.uk, and I'll certainly be more than happy to put you in touch with the relevant team. We can also signpost to other funding streams that are available. So I think Catherine touched on earlier the Flexible Workforce Development Fund. I think that's an absolutely fantastic opportunity for SMEs now, certainly with the inclusion of SMEs within the criteria for that fund. When it was initially set up, the Flexible Workforce Fund only supported those government levy apprenticeship paying companies with a payroll bill of 3 million or more, but now opening up the scope to SMEs really does add value to potentially the CITB offer with regards to maybe some of the software training that might be out of scope for CITB grant, but potentially would fall in scope for the Flexible Workforce Development Fund as well. So please feel free to get in touch with us, and as I say, myself personally or one of the advisory team will be more than happy to help you through the process. Thanks.
Help if I take put my microphone on. Good evening, my name is Juliet Mallis and I'm Programme Manager for Construction at ESP. Next slide, please. ESP is a collaboration of all Scottish colleges. It was established in 2011 to lead on construction, engineering and energy sector to maximise Scotland's economic development and job creation opportunities. Our role is to broaden existing relationships, partnerships, and to promote increased collaboration. This may be regionally or nationally, depending on the future skills needed. All of our staff have a mix mixture of industry and academic experience. Next slide please. ESP are leading on the Low Carbon Heat Skills Grant. Scottish Government has funding currently in place to support industry to be upskilled in air source and ground source heat pumps. This is only available to heating engineers, plumbers, refrigeration, ventilation or air conditioning engineers, as they require to have the prerequisite to access this type of training. To give you an idea of the drive behind this, the Scottish Government increased their target of installation from 6,000 to 60,000 annually to help meet Scottish Government's net zero targets by 2045. This is a great opportunity for businesses that meet the eligibility to transition into an area where there is a clear demand. Next slide. The interest in this scheme nationally has been amazing. We have partnered with 6 colleges, including Borders College, to deliver the training. You can note interest in the course through the Energy Savings Trust website. Currently, we're also training third-year plumbing apprentices through the fund supporting the workforce of the future. It's worth noting that from August 2021, low carbon training will become mandatory for all plumbing MAs due to a change in the SVQ framework. Finally, the Flexible Workforce Development Fund, which Catherine mentioned earlier, can also be used to access this training, and some of our partner colleges have been doing that up until now, because this is a limited pot of funding that we have at the moment. Next slide, please, Greg. The National Transition Training Fund. This is another Scottish Government fund available from early March to July 2021. It provides 100% funding to support people who have lost their jobs or who are at risk of redundancy as a result of COVID-19. The funding is aimed at people aged 25 and over to allow the development of skills which will assist with transition into roles with better potential for future growth and job retention. Funding is only available to certain groupings. Group A is for plumbing and heating, ventilation, air conditioning engineers, and they must hold appropriate industry qualifications at SVQ level 3 or equivalent. Group B is electricians, and again, they must hold the recognised industry qualification at SVQ level 3 or equivalent. Group C are any construction operatives or trades, and Group D are non-construction or new entrants. This is another great opportunity for anyone that's been affected during this pandemic to transition into another sector. Next slide, please, Craig. This is a map detailing the National Transition Training Funding courses and our 10 delivery partner colleges. There are clearly some recognised gaps in the north, central and west coast of Scotland, and although there may be some challenges due to the travel distance to take up some of these courses, some of them are also available online. If you meet the eligibility and are interested in any of the courses listed, please contact one of the college training providers listed above, and they will put you through the process of applying and getting funding to undertake these courses. And next slide, please. And that's us. Thank you for your time tonight, everybody. The panel are happy to answer any questions that anyone may have.